Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor as due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone and rule well. Blessings and salutations to the whole elect. Those in the gospel, broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is a quick, well, I won't say a quick lesson, but this is just a lesson through the Spirit. I'm going to have to come back and do a follow-up part because there is layers to this movie called The Book of Clarence, which I recommend. I really say that movie is really for the elect because even though when you watch the movie, it's basically satire, but it exists parallel to a real story, as you have men that actually followed Yahweh Shai and that was converted, that even believe in the Lord based on the miracles which he done. Now, I'm not going to spoil this movie, Lord's will, but I think this was a pretty good movie. It was highly spiritual if you look at the meaning behind of it, and overall it sheds light on who the real children of Israel is. They had some actually modern day, well, they actually had some Hebrew in the movie, which I didn't get a chance to capture it on screen. But there was a couple of scenes that they had the Hebrew writing in red, which Lord's will, I can look up the scene and then I can actually see the characters and look up what the characters actually meant. But this shows you that the Israelites are indeed a people of color. Okay, the people was true to caste. Of course, you had heathenistic customs in there. You had things that was off. It was more of a Christian. It was more from a Christian perspective than an actual Jewish perspective or Israelite perspective. I say it that way. Okay, but it spoke volumes because the fact that these were people of color and they were in the land of Judea during the time that the Messiah lived, okay, in his ministry, okay, which you had a lot of parallels in that movie about this guy named Clarence, which basically, he was trying to pay back a debt, okay, and ultimately the debt was really spiritual because it goes back into the debt that we have to pay the Father, and overall his debtor forgave him, because he done a noble deed, which I'm not going to spoil the movie, but he done something pretty noble, which found him favor with Yahweh Shai. Now, some things I didn't agree with, as far as, the essence. I mean, they depicted the Lord. I mean, he was, I would say, true to character, but, he didn't have the gray hair. He had the dark hair. Also, he didn't have the real deep voice. And he sounded like a Benjamite. He sounded like he was from the islands. And also, they didn't have the fringes, nor, with the whole virgin birth, which basically they was telling you in a roundabout way that it was basically bullshit. The story that they gave us is pretty much the mainstream narrative story that we've got in Christianity, which they were speaking on that. But this guy Clarence wasn't really buying it because he was saying, Joseph, you didn't know about this? And he was basically scoffing Joseph, man, which is a pretty funny scene. Okay. Also, they threw a scene in there, too, showing how you black women and how Jake ate up white Jesus. I feel like that was a spiritual nugget that they threw in there, too, to say basically, fuck you to you Edomites and also to you 2/3. Okay, but while there was some inconsistencies in the movie, beggars can't be choosers, of course, but nonetheless, I did appreciate what they did with it, the direction they went and the story of how a man that didn't really believe, the Lord woke him up, man, and he became a believer, which shows you that, hey, the Lord, man, he's badass, but ultimately, man, this truth is out, okay, and this truth is getting out. The elites can't stand it. And at the end of the day, this is it. This is the end of their rulership. Because since when did Hollywood ever depict a black biblical movie? Which I'm pretty sure there's maybe some out there, but this actually made it through Hollywood. So this was actually approved by the higher ups of this wicked society or the Church of Hollywood, that they approve of a so-called black cast playing the actual Israelites, which is pretty accurate, what I'm saying? It was definitely on point. They showed you the spirit of the devils, which was the Romans, which were Edomites, that was true to caste, okay? And they had that devilish nature about them. And also they showed the scene with white Jesus. And, he had the you just got to see it, man, because it's just a lot of gems in this thing. You may have to watch it 2 or 3 times to really uncover the layers. But I went to see it for a second time, and I got more revelation this time. But anyway, man, this truth is getting out there. And this movie shows us that even in our most darkest time, In a time of Jake seeming to not have any hope, there's hope, and this movie did just that. Okay, and there was a lot of particular scenes of dialects with Jake's speaking on hope of our people. Even when one of the main guys that he owed a debt to, pretty much went face to face with Esau and told him, like, look, man, you ain't no oppressors, you're just scared men. You have no power over us. And that was a heavy scene. So they know what's up, man. I think this guy James Samuels wrote it, which I've heard of him before, but not too overly familiar with the guy. But nonetheless, I think he did a good job in this. Matter of fact, let's look this up real quick. James Samuel. Do this here. And Jay-Z was a director on this as well, which shows you that they know what's up. Okay, yep, James Samuel. Bullets, British singer and songwriter. Okay, so basically, he's very known. But this is the guy that wrote it and directed. You know, and actually I believe he had a couple of tracks as they had a pretty decent soundtrack in this too. And it was so spiritual because the first scene they showed what niggas do. And what you see Jake doing today, hey, Jake been doing this all over since the beginning of time. Scheming, slacking, bullshitting, you know what I'm saying, drinking, going to the club, fucking with the women. They basically show the lifestyle of Israelites, man. Okay, not some overly pseudo-religious bullshit that they show you in these mainstream biblical movies. Like they're just all just stoic and we're just all around this pulpit and just this. No, Jake, man, when the scriptures say we're a very peculiar people, that's exactly what we are. Okay, because just as you had the disciples in Yahweh Shai proceeding with their mission and their ministry, you had niggas that was on folly. You had niggas that was selling dope. You had niggas that was gang banging. You know what I'm saying? You had niggas that was committing adultery. It's the same shit. And when you put life on it, when you put understanding to it, you can very well see how Jake lived. Like, yeah, there's got to be these people. Not that boring mainstream narrative that Esau puts in his movie. Okay, like the Ten Commandments. You know what I'm saying? It's a couple of more biblical movies. The Passion of the Christ, which the Passion of the Christ is a very good movie. You know what I'm saying? It focused on the last 12 hours of Yahweh Shai's life. And that was a pretty good depiction of it. But it was still talked about in a Christian or a pseudo-Christian standpoint, and not from an actual Israelite standpoint as to how these people were oppressed, what they did, their struggles, their ways to try to overcome their oppression. The movies don't shed light on Jake, man, because it'll be too close to home for Esau, seeing that this is really our people. Okay? So anyway, I got a precept real quick. This is the book of Psalms 43. And I'm going to start at verses 2. It says, for thou art my power of strength. Why dost thou cast me off? It says, why go I mourning because of the oppression of the enemy? And when you watch the movie, Jake was oppressed under the Romans. You know, they had to do things to get by. You know, they was under Roman tribute. And you still had niggas that was scheming, you know, trying to make a buck. You know what I'm saying? Just being straight Jakes. And you couldn't do nothing but smile at it because we know what we know what it's all like. Okay, because we lived this lifestyle. Like I could say Clarence was probably every brother in the truth before he woke up. Certain brothers came to the truth for reasons they didn't know. Certain brothers came to the truth to get out of a personal situation that they thought may have helped them because they felt hopeless. And the Lord turned around and woke these men up. Okay, because at the end of the day, you may have a different purpose to what you want to do, but the Most High got a particular purpose for you. Okay, it says, oh, send out thy light and thy truth, and let them lead me and bring me into the holy hill and into the tabernacles, man. And that's the point. Okay, it says out of thy light and thy truth. And this is the truth. Okay, like I said, certain brothers could have linked up with the camp because they was going through things. They may have wanted brothers to pray for them. You know what I'm saying? They may have one motive to use the truth for leverage and gain, to get back to their life. And then the Lord used them for a different purpose because of the spirits. You know, but whenever you will found the truth, brothers, you righteous men out there, no matter how you came into the truth or your purpose for it, at that time the Lord was ready for you to hear it. Okay, then it says, then would I go into the altar of Yahweh, and into Yahweh my exceedingly joy. And yea, upon the heart would I praise thee, O power of my power. You know, and that's the point. We're praising Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Hey, brothers, you know why this movie is coming out? Okay? And not only because us to thank us, because we're unimportant at the end of the day. You know, yes, the prophets, we have a heavy lot, but the Lord is shedding light on the truth, man. And because the Lord has put the Spirit on the elders and the apostles and you brothers out there to do this work in sincerity and truth, hey, you're witnessing the fruits of your labors. Yeah, this movie is folly. Yeah, it's a lot of folly in it. But overall, when you understand the tone, it was a highly spiritual movie. It was a very good movie. And I feel like only people that have a spiritual mindset can understand the nuggets that this movie threw at them. Because when I was in a movie with Jake, yeah, Jake was like laughing at it. It was comical. But it was a lot of things that went over Jake's head. Okay? It was a lot of things that went over their heads. They didn't understand the struggle of it and what it's like to come into the truth, man. In belief. You see? They didn't understand that because Jake is not spiritual. Okay? Man's goings. Oops, not man going. Man goings of the Lord. Hold on. Of the Lord. Yep. 2 precepts here. This is the book of Proverbs 5:21. It says, "For the ways of men are before the eyes of Yahweh, and he pondereth all his goings." Right. So you may have a particular reason as to why you came into the truth, or you may not have thought you was going to come into the truth, and the Lord may have a different purpose for you. Same thing with this guy, Clarence. Hey, Clarence was just trying to pay a debt, which is spiritual, because the scriptures say, seek the Lord 10 times more that he may be found. But the spiritual overtone was Clarence paying a debt with the Most High. Okay, but they put it in an undertone as him paying a debt to another Jake that he owed some money to. But the debt was really spiritual. And once he was paying that debt and he paid the debt, even though he didn't have the money to fully pay the tab because he did something noble with it, the Lord saw that and forgave his debt and had his enemies to be at peace with him, which showed him favor with the Lord, man. So it's all about faith, man, and the Lord calling you to do, because eventually the Lord was dealing with him. Now, whether he fell out the truth later on, because we know it's not real. We know that Clarence is a fictional character, okay? There's no such thing as the book of Clarence. But let's be technically honest. You have men that was at that time that followed Yahushua that was not written about. Okay, men that had scribes that followed them. You had prophets that wasn't really written about in the Bible. Okay, do you know that you got more prophets that wasn't mentioned in name than you have mentioned in name in the scriptures? So it's the same thing here. Now, I'm not saying, oh, there's a book of Clarence. No, because in many ways, you look at it from a carnal standpoint, it was completely blasphemous in many ways. But then again, Jake was getting crucified back then for following the Lord. You did have false messiahs back then. Okay, look at the story of what they call Bar Jesus, or Simon the sorcerer, when he was twitching people like he was some noble character healing people. And hey, Clarence took on the same thing. It was pretty much the story of Bar Jesus almost. But yet he actually got converted and became a believer. You see what I'm saying? So you got actual stories like that. Men that followed the Lord, that taught in his name, that, was doing false miracles, and the Lord seemed fit to wake men up. So you got to put yourself in a mindset, man. Okay? And it says here, man's goings are of the Lord. But how can a man then understand his own way? So like I said, man, Clarence, he may have thought this was his purpose, but his purpose was to do what the Most High wanted him to do. Which was to be a testament and a living testament to the Lord, because he didn't believe. Okay? He didn't believe, and they also showed Thomas, which was the brother of Clarence. Also, they showed John the Baptist, which he was completely on point. Had that Levite spirit. And the disciples, for the most part, was on point for the most part, but I didn't agree with the niggas having balls. Some nigga had the ball. Well, I ain't gonna say, well, Judas, that nigga, he just looked like a nigga. You knew he was a nigga. Nigga had bald head. And basically, you would be able to pick him out of a lineup. He just wasn't right from the get-go. And then you had another one of the Lord's disciples that had a shaven head, which, that wasn't going to be the case. If you was bald, then you was bald. But wasn't no man of the Lord putting a razor to their head or to their beards, man. So that's why I said that they had a more of a Christian tone to it, because, they had that universal approach. But overall, it was directly to the children of Israel, which shows you that this word is really getting attention. They see the works, brothers. Trust me. All right, so this is the book of 2 Ezra 6, and I'm going to start at verses 20. Let's start at verses 19. Matter of fact, start at 20. It says, and when the world that should begin to vanish away should be finished, Then would I show these tokens, and the book should be opened before the firmament, and they should see together, all see together. And what they're seeing these videos, they're seeing the truth, they're seeing the apostles, they're seeing the prophecies come to pass. Hollywood is getting whiff of what we're doing, and they're putting it in movies. And sooner than later, hey, every biblical movie from this point may have a Jake cast to it, which I'm actually scoffing. I'm pretty sure they're gonna try to do something to counteract that, because a lot of small heads wasn't happy about this. Okay, the first time me and the brothers went to see it, which was Saturday actually, you had two small hats in the movies, and you had a woman which appeared to be small hats, and then you had the man, which I believe it was her husband. And when you saw her, she was all into the movie. Because one thing about women, or Edomite women, they love Jake men. Okay, even if Jake is in their folly, they love to see Jake entertaining them, because they got a lust for Jake. But that Amalekite, hey, you can see the disdain on his face. But somewhere in his spirit, he knew, like, wait a minute, this gotta be it, because it's just too real. Even though it's satire and comical in many ways, this gotta be, because this is what niggas do now. And then we're hearing these niggas on the street corners preach, saying what they used to do and how Jake is doing this and that. And when you look at the children of Israel and how the Lord said they're very peculiar people, it's really believable. It's believable to know niggas was getting high then. That's very believable. Jake, the scriptures say there's nothing new under the sun. And it says, and the children of a year old should speak with their voices, and the women with child should bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months old, and they shall live and be raised up. And these are all the prophecies which is coming to pass. And it says, and suddenly should the sown places appear unsown, and the full storehouse should be suddenly found empty. And the trumpet should give a sound. When every man hear it, they should suddenly be afraid, man, okay? And hey, the fact that we're coming back into who we are, this truth has gotten the attention of the elites, okay? And they're not too happy about it, because now they can't stop it. Like one of the elites said, the worst thing we could have done was create the internet, because, hey, the creation of the internet led to the truth. Okay, the Israelites are literally killing YouTube with this information. And Great Millstone alone, as much content we pump out, hey man, that shit should be called Israelite Tube for real. All right. So this is the book of Isaiah 13:1. It says, the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. It says, lift ye up a banner upon a high mountain, and exalt the voice into them, and shake the hand, that it may go into the gates of the nobles. Okay. And we're saying with the Israelites, this is the 12 tribes, man. You devils are going down. The so-called Negro, Hispanic, and Native American, which are people of color, they're coming back to their true biblical identity and heritage and bringing forth fruit. They're afraid of that, man. Okay, because this is what they tried to prevent the whole time. And this movie in Hollywood doesn't make it any better. Even though a lot of people wasn't jam-packed. But like I said, this movie is really for the elect. Okay, because the elect is able to pick up on the nuggets and speak on it, versus the world, the 2/3. They may know that the people of God may have been people of color, or we may have been the Jews at one point, but they're still not putting 2 to 2 together and saying, wait a minute, you got men that's been in our cities week in and week out, teaching his word throughout the week and saying exactly what Hollywood is shedding light on. And you would think they would come to the camp and understand and learn of the heritage, but Jake is still in their folly. All right. And it says here, 27, it says, for evil. Matter of fact, let's start at verse 26. It says, and the men that are received shall see it, and who have not tasted death from their birth. Because you're going to have men that's going to actually not taste death on this side. Lord's will we be one of them. But it says, and the heart of the inhabitants should be changed and turned into another meaning. It says, for evil should be put out, and deceit should be quenched. And deceit is being pissed on now. This is why he has to come with these particular generated narratives. This is why he has to shut down the internet. Okay, you have to spin the narrative, because his lies are being debunked. Okay, that he's the actual Amalekite, the Edomite, and that he's not the Israelite that the Bible speaks of, nor is that his land. They was placed in that land by political means. And that's the spirit, because I was watching a video that a brother put up on his social media about this Jewish boy, how he said every time a so-called JOO goes back to the quote-unquote homeland, they say welcome home. But he said when he traces DNA, 88% goes back into the Ashkenazis, man. Okay, in Eastern, I think it's like Eastern Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And he said they have no type of relatives that's really from the Middle East. Okay, he basically saying he's not a J-double-O, but it's a well-generated lie, and it's actually false. It's a poor generated lie, but now we just shedding light to it, you know. And it says, as for faith, it should flourish, and corruption should be overcome, and the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared. Okay, and that's the point. Hey, this movie sheds light on the truth. Okay, like I said, there is a lot of folly in it, but overall, you can see Jake was a people that was ridden with folly. Okay, so this is Jake we're talking about. That's what the Lord told Ezekiel. He said, look, you ain't go to a people of a strange speech, but these Israelites, you know, a bunch of wicked, adulterous, drug dealing niggas fighting, you know, small. This is Jake. Jake always done wickedness, man. So it's not to see. It's not a surprise to see them actually in their right state, meaning that in their actual identified state, doing this. They the same way. They just call themselves blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, African Americans. They wear Western clothing, Jordans. They drive modern day cars, but these niggas were doing the same shit. Okay, and I got one more precept. It's the book of Revelation 11. And I'm going to start at verses, not Revelation 16, Revelation 11. There we go. So this is, the book of Revelation 11. And I'm going to start at verses 7. It says, and when they have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of that great city, which spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, which is here in America, where also our Lord was crucified. And they showed that in that movie. It says, and the crazy part about it is the Lord gave that nigga the power to do what he do. Because remember when the Lord said that he set the angel upon, he set a seal, and he bound them up 1,000 years into the bottomless pit. Who the hell you think allowed them to get out of their captivity? The Lord let that nigga loose, man. It's all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai. He didn't break out. He was just let loose for prophetic means, to fulfill the script, you know. And it says, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in grave. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life of Yahweh entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. Okay, and that's the point. We're back in our awoken state, and this is what's frightening these devils. They can't deal with the truth, you know. So therefore, they have to come after us directly, you know. But hey, man, Lord's will, we come back and do a camp sit down on it, because you know, brothers got their own nuggets and their own perspectives from the movie, which is pretty good in my opinion. I recommend you brothers to go see it, you know. But I'm gonna give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you will edify it to the next lesson. Shalom.